We're going to announce you here and announce you leaving.
Okay. All right, we go all good? Is everybody joined? And Susan, do you want me to use this screen so I can see speakers and stuff?
Yeah, just in case.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, November 1st, 2018. We are in the Commission chambers, and I call this Solid Waste District Governing Body meeting to order. Present are Commissioner Hanks, Commissioner McDowell, Commissioner Luke, myself, Vice Mayor Yates, and absent is Mayor Carson. Also, we have present Assistant City Manager Branco. Is that right? Branco. Okay.
Close enough.
Hey, New York, Branco. All right. And Attorney Slayton. And we also have recording for us Susan Hale. We have our police chief, Garrison, also here with us. All right, just make sure that everybody's phones are on silent, which I will do as we speak. And if you're able to, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Commission, the first thing we have is approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes? All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Luke to approve the agenda as presented, seconded by Commissioner Hanks. Seeing no discussion, please vote. That's okay. Didn't come up. All right. And oh, that's cool. Okay.
What a way to start a meeting.
Yeah. And that was approved. That was approved 4-0. All right, let's keep that momentum going. Item number 2 is public comment. We do not have any public comment. We don't have any public here. So moving on to the next item is 3A, and this is the item for single source procurement with Resource Recovery Systems, LLC. Yes.
Good morning, Commission. As mentioned during our budget meetings and hearings over the last few months, recycling has changed in how we're doing business. Julie and Frank will be providing you with a presentation. We're bringing forth this contract for your review on the single source procurement, and we're going to be discussing the short-term and long-term goals for recycling and for the city. I'd like to introduce Ms. Balia and Mr. Lama.
All right. And I think there was an updated PowerPoint to this item, or is that the other item?
That's the other one.
The other item, okay. And I don't know if Commission is okay. I mean, Ms. Branco, we're probably going to, or possibly some of us, will refer to that spreadsheet or the updated spreadsheet in talking about this issue. So.
And I've got a hard copy for all of you too.
Okay.
For the updated numbers.
And it was updated on the posting online with that updated PowerPoint presentation. Just want to make sure we're all working off of the same documents. Okay.
For the record, Julianne Balia, Public Works Director. I'm going to let Mr. Frank Lama in a few moments give the presentation on this item. But I just want to say a few words to how we got here. Several years ago, I ran solid waste for about 2 years, and at that time, we were a failing district. Over the years, and with the assistance of Mrs. Monica Bramble and now Mr. Frank Lama, solid waste managers, they were able to bring that district up into now what is a flourishing district. and a service to be very proud of. Of course, you go through a lot of bumps along the way, and when I had it, it was primarily financial and lack of equipment to take care of business. That being said, a couple years ago, and it actually, if you don't mind me saying, it was Mr. Lama's idea to have the new recycling program, which has also proven to be very, very, very flourishing and very successful. Now, in the end, the goal is two things. One is to, number one, to protect our environment the best we can with recycling, reduce, reuse, and recycle. And number two, it's to always be fiscally responsible with our citizens' tax dollars. Now, that being said, we have yet another obstacle to overcome, and we've been working very hard the past couple months to identify some things we can do to overcome that. The way the world is right now, recycling is extremely unstable. China accepts very little, if any. They had actually shut the doors here up until recently on accepting anything. Many cities and counties are going with single stream recycling. Single stream recycling is very complicated. Contamination is very high, and you are going to pay in the end for contaminants when you get down to the processor. So what we'd like to do now is to change it up once again, similar to how we did with our new recycling program 2 years ago, and we would like to try to take care of our own house with recycling, meaning that rather than rely on someone else to try to start setting things up and getting prepared, starting with a recycling center, to be able to sort through our materials, make sure they're clean, make sure we have as least number of contaminants as possible, and then also take care of our papers and cardboard to where we can continue to make some money on that. So with those words being said, I appreciate it, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lama.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Good morning. Thank you for being here today. Frank Lama, solid waste manager. So let's get started with resource recovery systems. We're going to give a little background about the whole thing. So let's get started. So, of course, we know Northport right here mandates all the recycling. It has to be dual stream, okay? We use automated totes. We collect blue lid containers, which is commingle, and we pick that up 1 week. And then it's hand lid, which is the following week. And we rotate. Now the recycling has increased for the last 2 years since we started this program, 600 tons. That's how much it's increased. It's well worth it. Now, of course, with the contamination has decreased because we're still keeping it separated, and it's still working out for us. So, Sarasota County, they have used resource recovery systems as long as we have. They contracted it out. Their contract ended in September, and so did ours. Our contract ended in September also. Now, they've had discussions back and forth with what they were going to do. They were going to go single stream recycling, or they're going to go automated on the garbage. So they were back and forth. They finally figured out that they're going to go ahead and do single stream recycling, and it's going to start sometime next year. So knowing that, they didn't have a contractor for single stream, so they needed to find one. So in doing that, they went ahead and talked to Resource Recovery Systems, which is, by the way, DBA Republics, okay, so you don't get confused with that. So they made up a deal with them, signed a contract for $177 a ton, plus, minus, it's plus for us, minus the share. So whatever share they get back, it gets often $177. Okay? Okay, now, Resource Recovery Systems. They're the only dual-stream recycling processor here in Sarasota. The other one is a single-stream processor, which is SSR, which is located in Sarasota. Now, due to the short-term contract, of course, if you go short-term, they're not going to give you a good deal. That's the way it is. Now, also, we have piggybacked off their contract, except the share, because our share is a little different than theirs. But Resource Recovery has said that they will go ahead and take our material. So the short-term recommendation, of course, is to please, let's go ahead and get this done today so we have somewhere to go with our recycling materials for the next couple of months. Let us work on getting an RFP, trying to get something where we can get a processor. Once we get a processor in place and we'll be able to do a transport company, of course, we want the recycling project to work. We want it here. We want to take the contaminants out before it gets to the processor. So that'll be the next, and of course, with your permission, and that'll be the next one. Any questions?
I don't see any lights on. Does anybody have any questions? Commissioner McDowell.
First off, I want to thank you for the meeting because
Sure.
as you knew, I had a huge list of questions about this, and just having the conversation was extremely helpful.
Great.
I am going to whittle it down to a few questions,
Okay.
just, and follow-up ones to the meeting.
Okay.
So on page, I think it's 12, letter number H of the actual contract.
Okay, yeah,
It sounds like this contract is contingent upon the contract with the county. Without a county contract, this contract is void. Is that correct?
After 60 days.
After 60 days?
Yep.
Okay. So,
So ourselves, we would get 60 days just like the county. So if the county went to them and said, okay, here's your 60-day notice, they would give us our 60-day notice.
okay, so we can't have this contract in place unless the county's contract is also in place. One has to work with each other.
Yes.
Okay. So in 60 days, are we going to be able to have, let's just say that the worst-case scenario is we approve this 60 days from now, tomorrow we get a notice that in 60 days it's going to be terminated.
Okay.
So that gives us 60 days to put our ducks in another row.
Correct.
Are we going to be able to do that?
Oh, yeah.
We will.
Yes.
I know you're amazing.
And
I
listen, the
just-
thing is too, also, thank you, but the 60 days, we know they're not in contract yet with another company. So it's going to take time for them to do that. So we're planning on probably February doing a switch. So.
Okay. So in the legislative text,
Right.
in a section after the tasks, there's 4 tasks.
Yes.
It says, final plans for a recycling center storage building will be presented to commission. What is that building?
That's today. That's the canopy we talked about.
That's the canopy, okay.
Yes.
So it's not a fixed structure
No.
building, it's a
Right.
temporary building
And
that's
that's what we
before
talked,
us.
yeah, that's when we talked about having a metal building. We're going to go ahead and do something where we can move.
Okay,
Hopefully in a couple of years, we can maybe get a transfer station, move on from there.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because when I hear building, I think brick and
Structure
mortar.
that's sitting there.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I just wanted to get clarification of that.
Sure.
And I believe that's it. And thank you for explaining about the market value subtracting off the 177.
No problem.
It's kind of confusing, and thank you for that.
No problem.
Mayor, I believe I'm finished for now.
Commissioner Luke?
Mine's just summarized in 2. One is the timing. I mean, we knew leading into this that the single stream was probably going to be the one to happen. And so it's this timing thing of why we're having these short-term contracts that's costing us a lot of money
And we apologize for that. We had no control over that.
because
The
of it
county
being
signed-
linked to the county.
September 23rd.
Yes, ma'am, and Frank and I have attended all of the Sarasota County meetings. I hand-delivered the letter to the clerk of Sarasota County Court from this commission opposing single stream, so we've been following it closely. In addition, Mr. Lama has served on their committee for the review of it with regard to, so we've been, every step of the way, and also he attended City of Venice's commission meeting with respect to it. But that was pretty much, they had a tight schedule, and we did our best to get everything to this commission that we could. And
I
it
know
just
you
kind
guys
of
have
left
been
us as a
following.
result of their actions. We reacted as quickly as we could. Yes, ma'am.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, is because of that, and because we're tied to them, and this short term is costing us so much,
Yes, ma'am.
are we looking at breaking away from the county?
Well, yes, ma'am. And actually, effective September 30th, we pretty much, once we get through this, I shouldn't say September 30th. As of September 30th, we had to make arrangements to start breaking away. So basically, we are, in a sense, a little bit tied, as Mr. Lama stated, with this short-term contract. But once this is completed, we are going to be completely on our own. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. And fiscally, that's my next question. Well, let's go back to the timing again.
Okay.
That 2 months, is it going to be enough for you to get us in place? I mean, to get things where we can be broken from them?
Yes, ma'am.
That's enough time?
Yes, ma'am. Realistically, in 2 months, it's probably going to be more like 4 months for all of us, including the county, that we will realistically have a new vendor, a new processor that we can bring our recyclables to. So right now, let's just say that the commission, we receive all of our approvals today, and tomorrow we have already made arrangements, and we've been working with our city's finance department to get our RFB on the street for a new processor. So we've already done some preliminary background work in preparation for those actions.
Okay. The next one is wrapped up in the fiscal.
Okay.
Is going through this process, breaking away, doing everything our own, is it going to be worth it financially in the
Yes.
long run?
Yes, ma'am.
How long will it take to get that return back?
The return back on the investment as far as the building and the recycling center and all that, I would say probably within 3 years.
Okay, so
Yes,
we need to make sure this operates 3 years basically on its own to recoup, and then we actually start seeing,
The savings.
Now, if I can say
Go ahead,
something real
Frankie.
quick. Now, remember, that building will always come with us. So if we move,
Yeah.
say out east, so that money's always going to be there. Even when we do the transfer station, that's something that will come off of the bill because we have it already.
Right.
So it's not a loss, so just good.
that's all I have, thank you.
You'll just ask my questions for the next one, for the next agenda item.
Okay.
Oh,
My
I
turn.
do have one more. I saw on the screen, and I apologize, it's going to be the $177, and it says that it's a 200% increase.
It's like 189%. You rounded it off to
But wasn't it
200%.
only $5 before? That's a whole lot more than a 200% if you're going from 5 to 177.
Yeah.
You're correct. And what we did was we kind of used an average of it. It was a little difficult to come up with a true percentage because the way it works now is we've been making money off the recycling. We've been getting, as Mr. Lama spoke about earlier, the shares. With the way the new recycling world is going to work, we're not going to have those share guarantees anymore. You know, we may get very little shares, if any. We're going to probably be paying a lot more than we're going to be receiving shares. But the 200% was just kind of an average. It shouldn't have really collated, and I apologize, to the $5 versus the 177, because that is a greater percentage.
I figured there was something in there
Yes,
that
ma'am.
was incorrect one way or the other.
Yes, ma'am, you're correct.
Thank you.
Okay. So I have a couple questions here. And watching what has been going on for the past few years with regards to the recycling, and obviously China, and
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it's affecting not just Northport, but it's affecting all over.
Right.
So, you know, and until and unless recycling takes a whole new direction, pretty much it's not the way it was years ago.
Right.
And that's where the biggest question comes down to.
Yep.
Does it make economic sense
To recycle?
to do the recycling in, you know, at the present time? And, you know,
Okay.
and then looking at the future, and this is where my concern comes in, where, you know, if the question is, you know, when we're going to recoup, the reality is if the market stays the way it is and continues to decline, there is no recouping of building a building.
Right.
It's more of reducing or trying to reduce the cost of recycling if we decide to continue to do it. So it's not that we would get $2 million back for building a building, the employees, the trucks, and the operations. It's just trying to look at the fiscal sense of if you pay a vendor to do it, if you outsource, versus having in-house. And has that analysis been done yet? I know that there is the study, and I don't know if other commissioners have read this study that was done in 2012. I think it was provided to everybody the last time that this subject came up. And in reading this, there was a lot of concerns about where the market was going, because it's volatile.
Right. Of course.
You know, depending
Changes.
upon the recyclable returns and revenue, whether or not this made fiscal sense. And at the time of this report, the consultant said it didn't make business sense for the city to have a transfer station.
Yeah. 'Cause
My
they're being so
concern
close.
is now that the market is even worse than what it was back then,
Right.
I'm trying to get to the answer of why are we looking at building a transfer station when it really doesn't make economic sense?
Are you talking about the recycling project? Or are you talking about a transfer station?
Well,
Two different things.
the transfer center is planned to become the transfer station and the
Yeah.
more holistic type facility, from what I understand.
Well, if I can just clarify something, and there's a reason we have to do it this way. So the first step in what I call phase one, to have a recycling center, we cannot call it a transfer station, because if we do, even if it's a prelim transfer station, there's, a lot of permits that are required for that, state, federal, and so forth. So the recycling center will be the first phase. But yes, then the next phase will be the transfer station, and not just for recyclables. It'll be for recyclables, it'll be for garbage, it'll be for yard waste. So regardless of how we end up with our recycling and where we're going to land, we will definitely need it for the other two. And to some extent, for example, if there's no other guarantees as far as always being able to make a profit of some sort on our cardboard and paper, that's always going to be. I mean, the biggest complaint I get from my staff, Frankie's staff, is cardboard's everywhere. It's called, the new way of life with Amazon. I mean, we got more cardboard than we know what to do with. Right. But not making sure that it's kept clean, and also that it's not wet. Because if it's wet, the processor considers it contaminated. So that's one component of recycling that we do have to hold on to, and we can count on as making some form of revenue on it. The others, it's questionable, and for future. And are we going to get to the point one day where it's so expensive to bring those recyclables to a processor? Would it in fact be more cost efficient to bring it to the landfill as garbage? That's a huge cultural change, it's a huge environmental concern, and it's not it doesn't meet the requirements of Sarasota County landfill. So that would require us, if we were going to do that at one point in time in the city, we would have to look at either going to Manatee County landfill or going to Charlotte County landfill, because they don't have those rules. But we're trying to take it one step at a time, and we don't want to just rush, without trying to make this work.
Well, and that's one of my concerns, is that, the data wasn't there to support it in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Have we done the analysis before we go down this path of basically spending where the taxpayers are paying to do the recycling versus...
Are you talking about the building, the project, or just
No, the
recycling
whole
itself?
thing. It
Everybody.
seems to be a one-way
Sorry,
track
everybody's
towards transfer
paying.
station.
Everybody's paying.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're Waste Management, Publix,
Right.
You're all paying.
And-
Now, that's one thing I really
Go ahead,
want to say.
Go ahead.
If you give us the opportunity to do this recycling project, there's a possibility that we can always bypass the processor and sell it ourselves. You have to give us the opportunity to look into that, and it is a viable option. So it's not, we're not stuck with a processor. We might be stuck with them for a few years, but we could become our own brokers and sell our own product. So that's something to think about.
It is, absolutely, and that is something I've thought about.
Yeah.
But, you know, there seems like this is a one-track path toward a transfer station. And what I'm saying is with the market changes right now, there's many cities that took a hard, firm stance and you said, you know what? We're just temporarily going to suspend.
Which they did, yep.
And they have done that because of the costs that are involved with it. Because it's what, $48 a ton to actually take the dual, our citizens could continue to use both bins or totes, want to call it the right thing, to continue doing what they're doing because it's the practice that helps it get even better and better. And then we pick it up, but except, you know, not going into this arrangement with Republic and end up where it's $48 a ton to go to the landfill versus paying out the $177.
Right, remember when we talked about that, we talked about this. The big companies, that's what they want you to do. That's why they're raising the recycling, because they own the landfills. And they want you to bring the product there. They're winning either way.
But temporarily, what I'm saying is that for a 3-4 month period,
I've seen cities do it for 6 months.
we can continue to do what we're doing in the pickup, in the citizens actually continuing to separate if we want to continue with the dual stream.
Right.
And looking at alternatives and options for the most economical way to do this. Because we haven't done that analysis, we haven't gone out to bid, we haven't done any of those things yet because this came up so quickly on us. So we can continue to do that. But paying to get rid of that, we could do the $48 a ton to go to the landfill.
You could.
Versus committing now for this $177 plus committing for the almost $200,000 to put up a temporary canopy at this site. That to me is a lot of expense instead of taking the other route to where, okay, fine, we're not going to commit to this ridiculous, over-exaggerated prices because they're really just to me abusing the opportunity to make their money off of this. And our citizens are paying for these companies to profit off of our citizens' recyclables. And that, I have an issue with that. So, do you understand what I'm saying? And take your time over the next 6 months to put out the bid, get the analysis to figure out, well, you know, should we go the route of actually having a transfer center and or transfer station, and what makes the most fiscal sense for us to do.
Okay, and if I can answer that, a couple of things. Number one, we would have to discontinue bringing everything to Sarasota County. We just renewed that, however our purchase order, whatever, however we have that with them. That's number one. So we no longer, pretty much, we would sever that relationship. That's the first thing. Next, we would have to find out.
Could you stop there, though?
Sure.
Right now, we have the landfill agreement with them. Is that what you're talking about?
That's correct. But we are not allowed to bring recyclables to Sarasota County. It's in the Muni Code. Yes, ma'am.
It's in the code. Sarasota County has it in the code that you cannot take, deliberately knowing, taking recycling to the landfill. And that's not saying Manatee County and Charlotte County are different.
So although the rates are lower.
Hold on, I just want to make sure that there's clarity.
You said that Sarasota County has it in their code that
Yes.
we cannot bring
no one
recyclables
in
to
the
the
city.
landfill.
We are, their landfill, that is correct.
They not knowingly can collect recyclable materials at the landfill.
Okay, so,
So-
but we bring our garbage there.
Yes.
Okay, so if we did like other cities are doing and putting the suspension on for a time period, suspension on recyclables and sorting, and basically it's the trash tonnage, they're not going to bar us from bringing our trash.
No.
Correct?
What I'm trying to tell you is if we're going to bring our trash to Sarasota County, or you're asking, could we? And then we would bring our recyclables to Charlotte County. We'd have our staff going in two different directions. That's not a good thing. it is more efficient for us to take it to one location.
Exactly, and based on what you're saying, I mean, I was suggesting that we continue the residents doing what they're doing, but if we do it the way other cities are doing it, which is probably why they're doing it that way, they're just telling their community, hold off, we're not collecting these bins or these totes for the recycling until we put in place a program, and therefore, they're going to be putting everything in their trash bin.
Which we can't have.
That is the way that they can do it, that everything would go to the landfill, because we're not separating it and sorting it.
Having someone separate for 6 months, how
No.
upset would you
It'd
be?
be a
First
whole
of all,
education.
the city's made a huge investment, over $1
Yes.
million into the recycling program. The educational component
Education
of
is what I was
it,
gonna say.
to get the residents
On
and,
board.
and the businesses to learn how to do it properly. And we still haven't lost, although it might be a smaller amount, we're still going to get some form of a share. And as Mr. Lama stated earlier, we are still going to continue to strive, even if it takes us a couple years, to bypass the processor and sell the material. It would be like throwing in the towel at this early stage, to be honest with you. And
That's why
and the other thing
keep
is,
doing what we're doing.
the guarantee of what kind of rate we're going to get with Charlotte County, although they're lower right now with Sarasota than Sarasota County, once we tell them all this, we don't know what kind of rate we're going to get.
And also, can I mention one thing? You said about waiting 6 months, still keep putting the cardboard in one, right? So what happens when everybody knows about that? I would put garbage. I'd be like, this is great. I'll put garbage in there. And then 6 months later, when we go back to doing this, there's going to be more garbage in there.
Yeah, no, I
There'll
think
be more
that,
garbage.
And now you're going to have a huge contamination rate. I
I think
mean,
that's
As
gonna be a
hard time as it
nightmare.
is right now with the commingle. The
Yeah.
paper's fine.
Yeah, and I think, because we talked about this during our workshop, just the nightmare, I mean, we just established the dual stream, we just did the education, spent all the money to do that, and then the perceptive nightmare that it'll create, that a city, like whenever you're out there, the citizens are gonna say, man, we hadn't even done this for 4 months, and we're already going back, and then we have to go back. I think that is, the nightmare of that far exceeds some of the costs that we might even be looking at, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Now, that is an option because I have seen one city do that for 6 months, but they got a lot of flack. So they were like, okay, let's go back to doing what we were doing. Because it's about the environment.
Yeah, it's
I
one
mean,
thing if we had done this for 3 years and then we had to switch,
Yeah.
but literally, we're just a handful of months of even using this process.
And, as far as, it's a temporary type of thing that we're talking about. It's not like, we're saying to the community that, we're just going to go ahead and recycle and we're just going to go dump it in the landfill. No, that is not what we're looking to do. We obviously need time to find that other location to take it to.
Right.
You had identified the SSR.
Right.
That actually you had talked about their rates, and their rates are lower. You need time to work out an agreement with them. So that's what I'm looking at is, finding a better option, because this to me, this option doesn't make fiscal sense to go into contract with somebody to pay these kinds of rates. When, even if we look at, and that's where the next item gets into some of the financial numbers and stuff, and even if we had our trucks take it up to Sarasota, it's less costly. It's less costly than doing this.
It is, but the contamination would be higher.
The contamination
Correct.
would be higher for what?
For the loads that they're receiving. Because you just said, say we had 7 trucks, instead of going over to the 177 Republics, which are off of Venice, we drive down to Sarasota. Okay, the 7 trucks drive down to Sarasota, and they empty the loads there. Now, when they do that, it's going to be inspected. So right there, they're going to increase whatever the contamination is right there. That's how they do it.
Yeah, but on the phone you had said that it would be 100% cleaner because of the fact that we do dual stream, so we separate it, and when it gets there.
Not 100% on the cardboard maybe, but the commingle, no.
But right now, it's not 100% when we get that share back.
Correct.
Okay, but so my point is if we take it to SSR versus Republic, we're
Oh, look, listen, I agree with you there.
okay.
Yep.
So what's preventing us from taking it up there?
Because this is a stopgap until February, until we can get a processor. This is a stopgap for ourselves and even for Sarasota County.
Okay, so right now, the way that it was worked out with this Republic, right now, SSR has declined to accept.
SSR has accepted, but they still haven't got have a contract in place. So we won't see that until next year. So right now, everybody is going through this contract. Ourselves, Venice, unincorporated Sarasota County.
Okay, and that's what doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't
I
make
understand,
sense to
because it's
go
a-
in a contract with Republic when we have another option out there, even if it's a temporary option, to
And that's,
do something with SSR. You've given
Okay.
us the numbers, you know what that
Yep,
is.
yep.
And that's why, did they decline that opportunity?
Well, you have to think about other things. So you're talking a 2-hour ride, 10 trucks. I'm
Wear
trying
and
to
tear
keep
on the
people in
vehicles.
town working.
And I'm trying to look at your numbers, and when I see your numbers saying that even with doing that, it's gonna cost much less
But it
than us
doesn't tell
doing
you
this.
the time that takes to get up there and back, and all the time we are missing out collecting for the residents. I mean, we want to keep trucks in town. That's the whole goal, not having to go farther.
I get it,
Okay,
but
good.
your numbers, like I said, even with doing that and knowing that that's not a permanent solution that we want to be in, but as a temporary solution, would be more
That's- of
cost
course.
effective than doing this.
Of course. Yep.
So that's why I'm asking
Of
these
course.
questions about, the alternative, the other option.
That's why we gave you the options. They're all different, so.
Well, but I have a contract in front of me that's only one way.
Well, the problem is, we don't have too much of a choice on the temporary, for the 4 months. I mean, we have a short amount of time, we need to do something. We have the arrangement as far as the Sarasota County that's set up. We're trying to do a similar contract. We've got the terms as best we could, because quite honestly, on a short, and it was extremely difficult just to get to the point we're at now with this vendor, let alone any other vendor even taking an interest. I mean, it was very tough. And anytime you ask somebody to do something on short term, you're going to have to pay the price. I mean, that's just how it is. And we got the best price that we could out of it.
But the price is lower for SSR, based
If
on
you
the
go to the
numbers.
door. Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to the door. But then that takes away from being able to do work here at the city.
And then
You know?
you have to remember too, we're not in contract, it's all phone calls. Once you
Yes.
get down and sit down, and as you said, things change each day, each month, maybe it's not that.
What are we doing now, since this contract ended?
We have a purchase.
September 30th?
We have a purchase order, and I believe it ends this week.
Purchase
With-
order for what?
Excuse me, 2 weeks?
I think the money will last about 2
We have about 2 weeks left with our purchase order with this company to do our recyclables.
And have we attempted to have a purchase order with SSR?
No, we have not.
Nope.
Okay. All right, I'm going to end my questions. Commissioner McDowell?
But based on the conversation with the vice mayor, I want to make sure I'm understanding. We cannot take our recyclables up to Sarasota County directly.
We could.
We could. I thought you
Correct.
said we couldn't take them up to the landfill with recyclables.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were
No.
talking about Sarasota for the SSR.
And that was one of my next questions. Okay, so we cannot take our recyclables up to the landfill
No,
in Sarasota?
no.
No. We can take our recyclables to Jackson Road,
Of course, that's what we're doing now.
and that's what we're doing now?
Yep.
Okay. SSR, what is that?
They're Single Stream Recyclers LLC. and They're
Okay.
located off of Orange Ave in Sarasota.
Okay. Orange Avenue?
Yes, 2-hour round trip without traffic.
Okay.
We could take it up there.
Yes, ma'am.
Of course.
Pardon?
And we could take it up there.
Correct. So we could take our recyclables up to Orange Avenue.
We sure could.
But by doing so, we have 2 hours loss of downtime for
Right.
collections
Right.
per truck, correct? They would have to go up there every
Every day.
day?
Every
Once
day.
a day, twice a day,
Every day,
every day.
once a day. Yep.
So
One
each truck would have to go up there once a day.
Yep,
They would have the wear and tear on the vehicles.
correct. Breakdowns, accidents, you name it, traffic, there's a lot of.
Okay,
Yep.
so
Overtime, so they don't
was just
interfere
gonna-
with pickup,
That's a whole other thing too.
pickup yeah.
that's
so-
what I was gonna then say. So they're going up to Orange Avenue, let's say they go up to Orange Avenue. They go up to Orange Avenue at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day?
Be at the end of the day.
Okay, that makes sense. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. I don't like
Yep.
to assume things.
Yep,
So they start their day at 7 o'clock in the morning?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. They run their route. What time is their route normally done now?
About 1:30.
So then they have 2 hours to go up to Sarasota
Yep.
and back. So
back.
1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 4 o'clock, we'll call it because of traffic at that time of day.
And our day ends at 3.
And our day ends at 3.
Yes, ma'am.
So now we are definitely into overtime.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Plus the wear and tear on trucks.
Tires,
Yes.
accidents. Yep.
What, I understand this contract for the $177 minus
The share.
the share. That is because it's a do or die kind of situation, so they're going to make as much profit as they possibly
Of course.
can, because there is not a real contract for like 2 to 5 years or
Right.
something.
Right.
So if there was a normal contract in place,
Okay.
what would you estimate that cost per ton to be? And I know you have to send it out to RFP, but based on your experience.
I mean, looking at it right now, you're looking at $95 per ton going to the door, $125 using the transfer station. That's the numbers that I've been given.
Okay, so 95 to the door means Orange Avenue door?
Yes, ma'am. And the 125 means Jackson Road. Now, that's not saying about the contamination, because when you get there and you open the back,
Right, and it has to come off.
they
And-
can
and-
be, and then one more thing, Commissioner, they could reject the load. If it's over 20% contaminated, they could reject the load, tell us to come pick it up. We would have to send people up there to collect the material.
Okay, so help me understand that if a normal contract, and we're only talking recyclables, we're not talking trash, correct? Okay. So for us to take it up to Orange Avenue would be $95
Yes, ma'am, at the door.
minus
The share.
the
Whatever
share
is.
plus whatever contamination.
Yep,
So this 125 is us taking it to Jackson Road minus,
when SSR takes over. When SSR takes over, that's their plan, 125. So right now, remember, right now Republics is there. But as soon as the Republic's contract's done, SSR will be taking over the transfer station. So, well, it's not a done deal, but phone calls, yeah. So he kind of gave me a price on what it would be for us. He's trying to help us out as much too. So he's saying 125, so you think about it, that's $30 more. $30 going to his door or doing it at the transfer station.
I
Plus the
see.
share.
So,
Yep.
so Orange Avenue is SSR also?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And that's who we're thinking is going to be taking over the transfer station.
So it would make sense that the 125 saves you time, saves you wear and tear.
does.
So I wouldn't call it a wash for the
The only-
$30. I would call it,
It's for the transportation costs, I'm assuming that's what he put in. But the thing that scares me about that, even though we're doing dual stream, when we drop it off there, they're gonna rate you right there.
they're going to rate you right
They're
there.
gonna rate your contamination.
Contamination.
Right.
Is that good or bad?
It's not good.
Okay,
I mean,
so.
great for the cardboard week.
All right, so now this 95 and 125, what if we have this transfer station where the contamination
Mm-hmm. Yep.
rate will be diminished significantly
Oh.
because it's on us at that
Of
point?
course, it would be on us.
So what would that rate be?
There's a good possibility you're just gonna pay the 95. The 280,000.
because our contamination rate will be
It could be,
close to zero
Close to
because
nil,
we
right.
are in charge of it at that point.
we're the responsible for that. That's why we like to do this project. We like to take out all the contaminants, the bags, the styrofoam, unnumbered plastics, things that are not supposed to be in there need to come out of that material.
All
And we
right,
can keep doing education, which we're gonna keep doing, so.
so this $95 with the transfer, and I apologize for asking all these questions. I want to be able to really understand options.
Sure.
This $95 transfer station, let's say it is a $95 for Northport to have a transfer station. Are we then still taking it to Jackson Road?
If we do this project that you're talking about,
Transfer center.
If we have this transfer center, I'm sorry, station. I
just
said
wanna make sure.
Center.
It is
This
pop-
transfer center, if we
Yes.
have a transfer center,
yep,
we take it to Jackson Road and then
pay the 125 processing, yep,
but then the contamination rate will be considerably lower, so we'll get a better value, which will
Correct.
ultimately make it more like 95
plus the share.
plus the share.
50, it depends. Let me throw another wrench in there.
Go for
it. Yeah, I apologize, but excessive water is a contamination.
Okay.
Okay, so that's something you have to think about also.
Excessive water, so
Right.
how would we have excessive water?
Meaning if the cardboard gets wet
cardboard.
during the transporting process, it will be considered garbage. And that will not be, we will not get any money as far as any shares. So if we do a different option to where we have a transporter come to our recycling center, should we develop that, we will keep it in a covered area so it stays dry. We will have one of our employees with a loader take it from the inside of the building and put it into the semi that the transporter either contracted or in-house, whichever we decide at, and that transporter will bring that up directly to the processor.
But if we go with a transfer and we haul it ourselves, and we buy a transport vehicle and trailer, I would assume that that's going to be covered anyhow, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am. I was trying to use the example that we could have a better assurance to keep it dry in that respect with that option, using the semi. Whether we purchase it ourselves in-house, do the semi, or contract the transporter out, there would be more of an assurance to help keep the cardboard and paper dry rather than bringing it to the transfer station.
And we would be bringing, if we had our own transfer center,
Yes, ma'am.
we would be bringing it up throughout the day so that there's no overtime and stuff, correct? Because if we're gonna have a vehicle,
We
a
go
driver,
once a day, right?
it's
Yes,
not gonna
ma'am.
be like an overtime for this
Yeah.
guy to
No,
go up
ma'am.
there.
No, ma'am. We would have, this year, in this budget, we would absorb utilize an existing solid waste employee for that. Next year, we'd have to hire someone in the next budget year. So we would, however, have to purchase the semi this year, but we would not hire a new person until the next following budget year. But it would not be on overtime. It would be during the day, the workday.
So what I'm hearing is this temporary contract with Republic for this 4-month, 6-month
ma'am.
kind of thing is kind of like, you really have no choice.
Not at this point.
Because if we were to drive it ourselves up to Orange Avenue, whatever we're saving, we're actually going to be costing ourselves not only time, but personnel, level of service, and then the wear and tear on vehicles.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, it wasn't
God knows
option,
we don't
so
want to be replacing vehicles.
We're trying to stop
That was a
purchasing.
joke.
I know.
Well, we're trying to stop purchasing vehicles. We want to keep the ones we have, keep them around for a long time.
Correct.
We need to keep the vehicles in the city. I've been saying that, I don't know, for the last couple of years, so it's very important,
Gotcha.
very important.
And if I could just clarify something, though, your response to the questions earlier was that even in doing that, it will cost the city much less than this contract. By
If you went to SSR traveling, like you said,
correct.
you said that, me, I said, no. But listen,
You said yes.
yeah,
you
the cost
answered
that way,
yes.
but you have to look at other costs.
I-
As Commissioner McDowell said, you're talking leaving this city for 2 hours.
Okay, But see, when you analyze something as to whether it makes fiscal sense, all of those things, I think, are part of that, where, just the way in the next item you broke down, that we would need
Yep.
to hire one person to be the quality control loader if we
Right.
decided to go forward with this project.
Correct.
We have to hire somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not for driving the truck, but we would have to buy the equipment.
Yes.
So when I asked the question about if we were to take it up to the SSR, would that be more cost efficient than this contract? And if the answer is yes, then to me, I would think that all of those considerations were taken into it. Because if you have to now pay overtime to fulfill, then that should be part of that bottom line that I'm saying, what are the numbers here? And if you're giving me an answer of yes, but it excludes the totality of the scenario, then I don't know that we've run that analysis yet to give me what is this number and what is this number.
The best analysis would be if this commission decided to do that, that's what we would do.
No, that's not, it's hard for me to make a decision if there are alternatives out there, but I only have information about this is the bottom line cost that we
Right,
did.
we're-
But we don't know, we can only assume it's gonna be less, but then there's other factors.
You're right, but it comes back on us, okay? As a Public Works Solid Waste Division, we need to keep the trucks in town. Traveling the trucks that far, we're taking away from the people here. Do you understand? We're taking away from the people here.
I understand the situation, I do, and I understand what you want.
Let me answer
And I
that
understand of how you're looking at it. I'm only focused on data.
Okay.
And numbers.
And Vice Mayor-
And I understand the importance of keeping the trucks.
Right.
But I understand having information of different alternatives. Truly, if it's the commission's decision, which it is, as to which way we want to go, I'm only asking for the complete information for all scenarios, because that is a complete analysis that actually can be given. I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying I disagree.
Right.
But when it comes to justification for the taxpayers out there and what we're looking at, I want to be able to tell them, look, this is the reality this way, this is the reality that way. And I only have a half of a reality right now, only because of the desire to go in that direction, because logically thinking, we would want to keep our trucks.
Right.
So
And the contamination.
I was just trying to get that
Okay.
comparative, apples to apples, not apples and oranges.
Vice Mayor, we could run the analysis. We'd be more than happy to do that. I will find out when our purchase order ends with Republic to do this. Bearing in mind that some of the numbers, and this is part of the reason we have not done the analysis yet, is because we have assumed numbers we would be using on what we may be getting, as Mr. Lama stated earlier. So we can do that. We're more than happy to do that. If it's the desire of the commission, we will definitely do that. But we are going to have to extend the purchase order with Republic. I don't know if they're willing to do that. I know Sarasota County has plans and timeframes in mind. They have already put their RFP on the street, and they're going to move forward. I know their goal is they want to do it by the end of the year, but realistically, it's probably going to be by February. So,
But, Ms. Belia?
Sorry. Valerie Melankowski, Business Manager in Public Works. And I just wanted to say one thing about this one specific agenda item, the recyclables materials processing. We're kind of locked into using only this one company right now because of the way Sarasota County's contract is written, and we're allowed to piggyback off of that. In order for us to use SSR right now, we'd have to formally bid or solicit, do a formal bid in order to use it, because it's going to cost over $100,000.
What's the date?
So I think actually we're going to be reaching that $100,000 sometime this month.
What
So-
is the date that the purchase order ends?
I don't know
It
that.
just depends on the money.
But I just wanted to throw that out there for this one particular
And
agenda
all of
item.
these
This
things
is
are
one
important to
thing,
know,
you know.
when we're talking about different options, and the purchase orders though are done differently, right? I mean, purchase orders, you get quotes for a particular thing that you're using a
Right, you
temporary
always do.
service.
And in this case, though, whenever it costs over $100,000, it's a formal solicitation, and that takes a long time to do. That's something actually we have up in purchasing right now. They're reviewing the documents, but by the time they advertise the bid, we get it awarded, we review the bids, all of that comes back to commission for approval because it's over $100,000. That takes time to do. So really, for right now, for the immediate, our only solution right now is to piggyback off Sarasota County, what they're currently doing as a temporary basis.
Thank you.
Ms. Belia, the contract that we have for this first item,
Yes, ma'am.
for them to pick up the city's recyclables
Mhm.
at Venice, which is what we're doing now, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
So to do that contract, we could do that agreement and then issue the RFP, RFB.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But that could be done without the transfer center, correct?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Which could
You're
give us...
talking about the first contract could be done without the recycling center. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
Or, which would allow maybe some time to figure out what direction and what kind of RFB do we want to put out there.
Well, okay. This is only going to be for 4 months. So,
I thought
It
it said
takes-
a year, up to a year.
no, ma'am. No, ma'am. Sarasota County's plan, they've already told us, and not just have they told us, but they have taken action. We attended the meetings. They have a RFB on the street for a new contract. Their goal originally was December 31st of this year to be done with, have everything in motion to have a new recycling processor. It's realistically, it's going to be more like February 1st. So, since we're tied to them with this contract, although we have our own contract, the terms of it ties us to them. We are going to need to do something else, which is an RFB, to get another processor. That takes 3 to 4 months. So we really need to start, if we're going to take that option, that RFP process very soon.
So are you saying that this agreement, which is for a year,
Yes, ma'am.
starting today
Mhm.
through September 2019,
Yes, ma'am.
could be severed by the county?
Yes, ma'am. By February 1st. Yes, ma'am.
Or any time.
Remember the
And-
60 days. 60 days.
60 days, yes. And because we've stayed definitely going to all their meetings and constant communication, we know factually that it's going to happen. February 1st, that's going to happen
I thought
with the
in
county.
When we talked on the phone, it was my understanding that this allows the city to continue that relationship with.
No, ma'am.
because of age.
No, ma'am, not on this
Well,
contract.
and that's what was not clear, is that, like I said, when we talked on the phone, I thought this was giving us that agreement with them.
This is,
Regardless of what the county
no,
decided.
no,
to do.
ma'am. I'm sorry if I didn't say it clearly, but no, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, Mayor, my first question, just to
Right.
reiterate, was on page 12, number H, and they said,
Yeah.
without the county, this goes away.
Yeah.
That's what H mentioned.
Right. And that's why I had that conversation on the phone, which I, understood differently in what you had conveyed. Commissioner McDowell, did you have other?
No, not in regards to this. My other questions are more towards the transfer center.
Okay.
So, because I think really we really are stuck between a rock and a hard place, and we have to do something with this contract. And the county is pretty much making that impossible to do anything else temporarily.
Yes, ma'am.
is my understanding. This is a temporary thing, but we've got things that we're going to do if this gets approved now, that we can get our feet in motion for long-term.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I don't see any other questions, and thank the commission for the patience in this. It is definitely a very substantial financial commitment, so I appreciate the patience from everyone.
I'll make a motion then.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the single source contract with Resource Recovery Systems. No, is it, I'm sorry, is this Resource Recovery Systems or Republic?
It's DBA Republics.
Okay,
Doing business as.
all right.
We do.
Recovery.
Yes,
So, I'll make a motion to approve the agreement 2019-27 for the recycling materials using Republic contract as presented with no changes.
I'll second.
The motion is stated by Commissioner McDowell.
if I may, their DBA name is technically Resource Recovery Systems LLC.
That's not in the contract, though, ma'am. The contract says Republic
Services.
Okay.
Services. It does not say anything about a
Okay.
DBA.
Okay.
That's why I was kind of
Yeah,
confused
they-
when you
they're
were
doing
saying.
business as- They have a couple of names. so.
And
Of
the
course
D-
they do.
Republic's just purchased.
If I may, the DBA does not
Resource.
need to be part of the contract, it needs to be the legal name,
Okay.
even if they're
Okay.
doing business
Okay.
as.
Okay.
All
So
right.
City Attorney, the way the motion was made, is that acceptable?
The contract is correct as it is.
Okay, thank you.
Which is what
Does that
was stated.
contract include not to exceed 960,000?
I just said it as it's presented with no changes.
Okay.
Can I just, as a
Okay, so-
clarifier, really fast? So with this, we're not, from the citizen standpoint, we're just going to continue to do exactly what we're doing, right?
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, sir.
I just want to verify that that is still going to happen.
Okay, so that motion was made as stated by Commissioner McDowell, seconded by Commissioner Luke. Commissioner McDowell.
No, thank you very much.
Okay.
Next,
Commissioner Luke,
next.
do you have anything? Okay, Commissioner Higgs, I don't see your light on. Okay, and I guess that leaves me. I am not going to support this agreement because I would rather do the purchase order, which we are allowed to do. Obviously, we're limited to only that one company we could do a purchase order with. And I would like to do that because I really would like to get other alternatives and the numbers with that, as to these scenarios. Because I think when the taxpayers do look at this, the frustration is that, they're doing the recycling, we're conscious of the environment, and yet we're going to be paying, nearly $1 million to a company so they can make money off of these recyclables because we end up paying them at the end of the day. It used to be flipped around to where the city would get back revenue, and obviously where the market is really the dictator of what's going on. And I really think that we need to be along with other cities and putting our foot down to not let this go in the direction that it's going. So I would have liked to really have seen different alternatives than the direction that this is going down. And I'm not really convinced yet that economically it's going to make fiscal sense for this community to go down the route of having a transfer center and then going into the transfer station. So had I had maybe some additional data, analysis, information, this just didn't pop up. We've known for the past couple of years and seeing where this direction was going in the marketplace. So that's the disappointing part about it for me, and I much rather would do the purchase order instead of this agreement.
May I speak?
Sure.
I understand that
sorry.
fiscally, we're kind of between a rock and a hard spot. And we may be finding that the future of recycling and garbage itself is going to even take another twist and turn.
But we do have an environment and a culture within our country, and we have tried to focus on that within our community to reuse and recycle. And the environment and the health and well-being, of doing this is important to the earth, to the people, to the planet in whole. So this is a culture that I don't know where it's going to end up. But right now we have people across the planet who care. And so I will be supporting this. And maybe some other time down the future, we may be turning a different direction. But right now I feel the pulse of the necessity of life is to uphold what we're doing currently. Thank you.
Commissioner Dow?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about the going and extending the purchase order, but in order to do that requires the other party to accept a longer purchase order. And I really don't know if they're going to want to do that because they're stuck with this same thing too. And I don't want to leave our staff not able to pick up recycling. That would be a bigger problem. And from the conversation, it's my understanding we only have like a week or two left on that purchase order. Mm-hmm. Our next meeting is Monday, and then we don't have another one until the 12th, which is putting us right at, I think it's the 12th, 13th, putting us right at that 2-week mark. And I'm sorry, I don't like getting that close to things.
And I'll tell you too, with the new, possibly a new commission, this will be a whole thing that they haven't had to look at over a period of time the way we have.
Yeah, so I really think, I understand what you're saying about the purchase order and trying to be fiscally responsible and looking at more data, but yeah, we are between a rock and a hard place with this one because of time and the current purchase order that's in place. So I will be supporting this, but I do, with the next part, we'll have a bigger conversation about the transfer center.
Let me just ask something. Did you say that we're close to the threshold that we cannot do a purchase order? I just want to clarify.
It is the rule for procurement and also for the city manager. We cannot go over $100,000. We would have to go to bid with that, and we are getting extremely close to that.
Okay, because I know we have that agreement from 2016, but that's no good because of the changes that we just made.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, ma'am.
So I just wanted to ask that question because, I mean, obviously
yes,
I am more supportive of the purchase order part of it.
Yes, ma'am.
But we cannot do a purchase order then?
No, we can't.
We're almost to that threshold.
The issue is the threshold of the $100,000 that we have to bid. We have to go through the bidding process. That's a procurement rule and the city manager's rule.
That's 2 or 3 months if that's rushed.
So, yeah, so we're not even.
Excuse me.
Hi.
Jenny Dine, procurement. Mm-hmm. That is the standard. It is in our code. However, if you get yourself in a dire situation and commission truly feels that they need to do something, you do have the ability. To the extension, we just would need to know for how long and how much.
Okay. And that,
Okay.
that's the clarifying information. Because we've done waivers in certain circumstances before. Okay.
I'm not a fan of waivers.
No, I get it, but there are certain circumstances and situations.
Emergency situations, I get that.
And the fact of the matter is, I just don't appreciate the commission being put in positions that are between a rock and a hard place. And I understand that, certain things have popped up last minute, but I also understand that, other alternatives or options were not presented to us. And that's what I'm disappointed at. So, seeing no other lights on, let's go ahead and vote. We don't know what that noise is, but
Sounded more like somebody going to the bathroom on that one.
we have no idea.
Reverberating, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of got an echo.
How about we call
Okay. The,
good thing this isn't Halloween.
it has, that's when it happens. Okay, well, hopefully between
man,
this
turn it
meeting
off.
and the 1
I
o'clock
was
meeting,
ready to get my feet on.
we can get IT to fix that. The motion passed 3-1.
The beat down.
The motion passed 3-1 with Vice Mayor Yates dissenting for the reasons stated in regards to the sort of last minute, no other option but this option, and would prefer the purchase order process instead. Okay, let's go on to item number 3B. Ms. Branco?
Yes, Commission. The next item is discussion of the proposed recycling center at the Pan American site. And we will have Ms. Belia and Mr. Lama to discuss that. Julie, would you like to?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. For the record, Julian Abelia, Public Works Director, and at this time I would like to ask Mr. Frank Lama, Solid Waste Manager, to provide the presentation on the Solid Waste Recycling Center project.
Thank you. Frank Lama, Solid Waste Manager, here today to discuss the Recycling Center project located at 5455 Pan American Boulevard. So, of course, the purpose of a recycling center is to have all our big trucks stop at the center, load there so we can load it into a larger vehicle, a larger trailer. Now, it's an affordable, sound way to handle collective recycled materials since we do not have a local recovery facility. Okay, it also reduces the cost of transportation, gives us a chance to evaluate and determine who the best processor is economically, and it also provides fuel savings, equipment usage. The biggest thing about the recycling center is we need to basically remove the contaminants, the hazardous waste, and recover other recyclable materials that are in there. That's the whole goal. So the contaminants will say they're plastic bags, styrofoam, wood, other metals. And when we talk about recovering recyclable materials, their metal is not in their program, so we can take that metal and we have a program of our own which we recycle. We recycle all the metal here. Okay, and hazardous waste, that would be someone putting an oil container inside the bin by mistake. We could take that out. And also batteries. You know, the Ds, the AAAs, things like that, people think are recyclable. Those are garbage. The motto here is recyclable is rechargeable. Rechargeable is recyclable, that's it. So the small batteries need to come out. They do not go down to the processor. That's garbage. Of course, we want to reduce collection route time, of course. That's the main thing, too. But establishing a recycling center at 5455 Pan American Boulevard, looking to install a 54-foot width, 50 length, and 20-foot height laminated fabric structure to house our recycled material. Now, of course, the biggest thing, the reason why we're going to do this is because to get the contaminants out. We need to get the contaminants out of the recyclable that's being collected here in town. Okay. The recycling center operation hours will be Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Of course, 5 Saturdays for the holidays. We're also looking to utilize a transport service, taking it to a distant processing center, and that'd be whoever we analyze and where we figure out we're going to use. Of course, the goal is to lower the fees, and get a better share. That's always the goal. And of course, in 2020, we'll be definitely going back out for yard waste. The ranch, as the village grows, the ranch pretty much goes out the windows for us. So we're going to have other options, and we only really have 2. It's Charlotte County, or it's going where we go to the landfill. They have a yard waste place there too. That'll be the 2 choices. So to do that, that's traveling. It's 63.6 miles, 48.6 miles. Another vehicle leaving the city. So what we'd like to do is drop it there, take that, put it into a larger trailer, and let that big trailer go up there, wherever we decide where we're going to go. And that'll be an RFP we'll put out. Okay, so, I don't know, many of you know this, but that used to be our old solid waste yard. Well over 10 years ago. Let me see if that works. Yeah, okay. Pan American Boulevard and the bridge, we're all good there, because we definitely drove on that, so we know that. As you can see right here, I'm going to put the arrow. This building right here, this shed, we're going to house the cardboard there. The paper, the fiber, the cardboard, that's going to go there. So now it's covered, which is good. The tank's going to stay here. Over here where this red spot is, that's where the recycling center is going to be located. We're going to place it right there. Now, a lot of this material here, I'd like to see the trucks and things, they'll be out of the way. And somebody will be using this facility here. I think like 7 people, right, Joel?
Yes,
7 people
from
will be
Parks and
using it.
Rec.
From Parks and Rec will be using this. So we should be all able to definitely coordinate together, get together, and make this happen. There should be no interruptions. You figure we're thinking about 10 trucks, 7 trucks a day, a couple of the trailers leaving at least 7 times a week. And this is what the canopy looks like. As you can see, the cement bottom, 8 foot high, the canopy itself. Now the cement on the bottom, you ask why would that be there? And that's because the loader needs to push up against something to pick up the material. So we use that heavy cement. The estimated annual cost of processing material. The first column, as you see here, okay, that's Sarasota County, Jackson Road, transfer station in Venice, using Republics, still staying dual. Now this right here is only a stopgap, of course, like we just talked about, for the next three months, maybe until February. But let's go into the second column, as Commissioner Mayor Yates, Vice Mayor Yates talked about. So that's SSR, that's single stream recyclers. They collect both dual and single stream. So if we were to self-haul all our vehicles up there, the fuel and salary would be $560,898. Now that's not talking about like we talked about before. That's every truck going up there, time away from this city. The variable is $132,134, and the totes. Now, if we went single stream, of course we would have to change the lids, or at least get lids in here, and we would get totes back. But we could change the lids, and we could do single stream. Now we know the contamination rate. We're thinking it's 120,000. It could be 300. It could be 400,000. Just don't know. Single stream it's having a hard time right now. It's facing a lot of criticism because the challenges of contamination. Very difficult, very difficult. So let's talk about Sarasota. We'll go to the third column. Sarasota, dual stream, SSR, if we contracted haul, if we had this building here, if we had the building at 5455 Pan American, we're thinking the transportation would cost about $200,000. The fuel, probably like $5,800 just for the loader itself. We would hire one person next year, a quality control loader, and that person would sift through all the material, taking out the plastic bags, the styrofoam, things that aren't supposed to be in there, and then he would load it into the transportation vehicle. The totes, we would keep the totes just the normal way we're doing it now, $200,000. The loader would be $280,000, minus the one-time cost and the contamination at $20,000, which could be a lot lower than that. Could be pretty much zero. We hope so. Total estimate cost would be $765,800.
I'm sorry.
So the fourth column. So if we did an in-house haul, in Sarasota, still staying dual stream, it's processing and market share is $280,000. The fuel salary is about $45,000. That'd be a couple of trailers, a truck going up there with a couple of trailers. Quality control loader, $60,000. The Pan American site, of course, $180,000. Now the transport vehicle, that is $190,000. The transport trailer is $250,000. That would be for 2 of them, because you just don't want one. Yep, be 2. You just don't want one, because if you take one and you leaves, the other one, we want to be loading up another one. So we do the 2. And that's not saying in time, we would definitely need another transport vehicle, but I think one would be sufficient for the first year.
2 trailers, 1,
Vehicle.
okay.
Yep. Yep. And the totes would be the same 200,000. The minus the one-time cost, of course, is $900,000, and the contamination is at $20,000, hopefully lower than that. It's funny, if we do this project, we can cut the contamination down. Without the project, the contamination will always, it can rise. There's no stopping that. Okay, so let's go to, that's $697,000. Let's go ahead and go to the fifth section there, Sarasota County Jackson Road Transfer Station in Venice. And this is still staying dual stream here, and that's if SSR, Single Stream Recycles, does get a contract with the county and comes in here in February. Okay? The processing and market share is $520,000. The fuel salary is $103,632. The variables are $20,909. And also the totes are going to stay at $200,000, around $200,000. And contamination is going to be at $60,000, thinking whatever the contamination rate is for single, we're going to be at least half of that. So total of that cost is $904,541. Now, using the Sarasota County Jackson Road Transfer Station, Venice, doing single stream, doing self-haul, like we're doing with the 7, 8, 9, 10 trucks going up there, $520,000, $103,632 for the fuel. The variables, $20,909. The totes, like we talked about the lids, would be $70,000. The contamination, scary, because it's 120, that's what we're thinking, it could be way more. It could be a lot more than that. $834,541. Now, what we'd like to do is analyze the contract haul of 2 single stream recyclers, LLC in Sarasota. And that's not saying if we go ahead and do an RFP, we will definitely look at all the haulers that send back, and we'll take a look and analyze all of them. Of course, we always want to save route time, we want to save fuel, we want to save maintenance, and of course, we want to allow for future opportunities. And this building can be moved, like we talked about, to another area. So it's very important. So, any questions?
Commissioner McDowell?
Yeah, if you could go back to the estimated annual cost sheet. I have
Yep.
quite a few questions on this sheet.
Okay.
So if you look at that first column, you see where it says estimated total 1.2
Yeah.
million?
Yep.
And then it says total estimated cost 1.3. Why is that different?
Well, when I talked to the Republic's gentleman, he told me that when I asked him about how much the processing fee would cost, what was he thinking it was going to cost us? He told me $960,000. We went ahead and did this. We were almost done. We were rushing to get it done. We keep getting last minute figures. He said that, well, he called and said, well, what are you paying for now? Are you paying for anything now? And I said, yeah, we're paying like $2,500 a month. And he said, well, add that. And I said, what? I said, what about the share? So it went back and forth. So I couldn't trust him at all, so I just made it a little higher. It's pretty, I mean, you can talk to people, but without having a contract, sitting down and having a contract done, that's it. So that's, I mean, we're thinking if we went with this company and they stood for the whole year, it'd be $1,373,000.
And that was adding that 2,000 a month?
Yeah, and that was, think about it, that 2,500 was with a great share because our contract in 2016 was phenomenal. Contracts now, those days, they're not there anymore. Yep.
So there's no contamination at all with this column?
It's included in their price.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
But remember, they're only a stopgap. They're only going to be here for 3 months.
Okay, so contamination is included. So this contract that we just approved 3-1, just a few minutes ago?
Yes.
Includes contamination?
No rejects allowed. Yep.
No rejects allowed?
Yep, so no rejects. They'll never reject anything. They'll take everything.
They'll take everything?
Yep,
Okay.
and not charge.
All right, I thank
At
you for that.
177 a ton, I hope they're doing something for us.
Yeah,
Right?
All right, so then my next question is variables. What are variables?
And that would be like breakdowns, tires. Tires are the most important thing here. I mean, breakdowns, tires, towing, just basic maintenance, things like that. It's funny, we go through a lot of tires here.
Are you in the second column?
It's actually, it's listed here as variables, and then
Oh,
it
gotcha.
comes across.
Gotcha.
All right, so that explains then why there's nothing in the contracted haul, because that was my next question, why is there no variable in
Right.
there? All right, so,
And, Commissioner,
yeah,
that would probably be in the plus, because our trucks wouldn't be leaving the city.
correct. So the contracted, the variables, when you go to Sarasota SSR in-house is 32,000?
Yeah, for the truck and trailer, if they're gonna be going back and forth.
That's because they're going up to Orange
Yes.
Avenue?
Yep.
Okay. So that's why it's higher. Why
why-
is there a variable, oh, because we're taking it to Jackson Road, okay. So then going down to the contamination line.
Yep.
At the very, towards
Yep.
the very bottom. I see it goes 120, and that's if we take it to Orange Avenue.
Right.
And then it drops down to 20 if we're taking it to Orange Avenue ourselves.
Right.
Is that using a transfer center?
Yes.
But then if you're, okay, do the transfer center.
Here?
Gotcha. All right. That answered all those questions. So, one second, sorry, guys. So now I have to go into the money part of the one-time use. I sent a city manager an email yesterday. I have a feeling y'all didn't get it because I didn't get a response, so bear with me. So the sorter loader for $60,000, the quality control loader is a person, $60,000. That is not in the budget for this year?
Right, it'd be next year.
So that would be in fiscal year 1920?
Yes, ma'am. Well, it'd be 2021, right?
I'm sorry,
Be not this year, next year.
1920?
That'd be 2021.
No, we're in 1819 now.
Oh, okay.
So 1920, is that the year that you're?
Yep.
Alrighty, so the one-time expenses. So I went through
Yes.
the budget that we just approved for 1819, and obviously this equipment is not in there, or at least that I can see.
Correct, for the in-house hall?
Correct.
Correct, it's not there.
So where are we going to get that almost million, we'll call it $750,000 for equipment?
That was something we have to do.
For the transport vehicle, transport trailer. Oh, and then the driver, we're gonna have to have a driver. So where's the driver in this year's budget?
Yeah. We would have to use reserve funds for that.
Reserve funds?
Yes.
Okay. Reserve funds for the equipment or for the driver?
For the equipment.
We have that much in solid waste reserves?
I hope so. We should have, we have over 2 million. We have over 2 million in there.
Okay, what about then for the driver? How are we gonna pay for that driver?
If we went ahead and did this, somebody in the department has a Class A, or somebody will get one.
Yeah, we would use in-house staff right
In-house
now. We would, this budget year, we would have to budget for it next budget year. But this budget year, we would use the existing staff member.
Correct.
We have existing staff that can drive a semi?
Yes, ma'am. Class A license.
Class A.
Class A?
Yes.
Okay.
Class A, yes, ma'am.
I don't know what the staff's qualification, different qualifications are, that's why I have to ask.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, our largest, for example, vehicle in the road and drainage operations is our lowboy, which hauls vehicles. This is kind of similar in concept. That triggers the Class A requirement. And I believe you do have employees that have the Class A. Yes, ma'am.
So Parks and Rec is okay with transfer center being there and them using it too?
Yes, ma'am. We met with Ms. Sandy Funheller, the Parks and Recreation Director, a couple of different occasions. And her staff of 8, which includes the manager, Parks and Rec's grounds manager, they are going to remain there. They do have some areas of storage in the bays, and they are in the process of cleaning that out and relocating to on-site. We have a larger storage unit facility that they're going to put those items in. So we have discussed that with Mrs. Funheller.
Okay. It's been almost over a decade, I think, since this was a solid waste place for
Correct.
vehicles and stuff.
Yep.
So now that we're going to turn it into another temporary facility for that, concerned about the pest control, because we're going to have that, is that factored in?
Yeah, we're gonna make sure it's clean. We're gonna try to make sure it's clean every night. Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm
We'll
sure little
factor-
critters are
Yeah,
going to find.
Yeah, and we have, facilities is actually under our department now with the reorganization. So we will work with the facilities manager, which is Chuck Speak, and make sure that we have proper pest control, because you're correct. You are going to have added
Yeah, you're
components
gonna
there.
have to
Yes,
have-
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Are those costs factored into these estimates?
Yes, it's not gonna be as much, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So what you're saying is it's a dime issue? Okay. Thank you. I believe that's all I have for right now.
Commissioner Luke? Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, let the record show the mayor is here. I'm turning over the gavel back, and it's 12:34.
My questions are going to be pertaining to the last two columns
Okay,
on that annual cost sheet. Those last two columns, is that figuring with or without the recycle center?
without,
Without?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then can you tell me online, the processing market share, what the difference is between the 280,000 and the 520,000?
Yep. The 280,000 is us taking the material and bringing it to the processor's door. That's 280,000. So that's $95 a processing fee. Now, when you go use their transfer station, it's going to cost you $125. So that's the difference in the price, the 520 and the 280.
Okay.
Does that help?
All right. When we're looking at this recycling, no matter which direction it goes, we end up paying for it anyhow, right?
Correct.
We're not being paid for it in the end. We're paying for it to be recycled.
We're paying some, yes, we are paying some of that processing fee.
Okay. And with the last two columns, we do not have a cost of a recycle center.
Included in there.
Right, so that is just,
Straight going to Jackson Road. The only thing about that, like we talked about, is contamination. We're looking at $60,000 if we keep dual, and if we go single, you're looking at $120,000. Now, those two numbers could be much higher. Just don't know.
all right, so the next to the last column is just continuing doing what we're doing as is.
Correct. Going to the transfer
The furthest
station.
one is stating that we would then turn to a single stream.
The second, the last slide, yes, if we went that way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Vice Mayor?
The second column,
Okay?
that's the one we were talking about before. So I just
Yes.
wanted to state, these numbers then are not inclusive of those other considerations.
Those
In order
numbers-
to do a self-haul, there's other costs associated
Time.
with that.
Time is the biggest thing
As
there.
far as the number of employees needed to continue the pickups that we have for the service that we have. So there's other additional costs that are not factored in here.
Yeah, it's time.
Okay.
Time is the biggest thing.
Right, because that's going to have an impact.
It sure is, yeah, sure would.
So,
Is
so,
that the second row, or?
yeah, the second one. So I also want to ask then, because those numbers are just, they're not complete. When we look at the column that says Sarasota dual, which is what we're doing now, SSR in-house.
Okay.
That also, that's where it's going straight to Sarasota. It's not
Are you talking
stopping
about the
at,
fifth column?
1, 2, 3, fourth column.
Fourth column, yeah, that's in-house haul, that's a trailer. One truck and trailer taking the material up to SSR in Sarasota.
So that's only one truck
Right, one
and
truck.
trailer
One truck, one trailer, correct.
every day,
At least 7 times a week.
at least, okay. So the trucks that we have now
Right.
to
Jackson
Venice,
Road.
right, going to Venice, they would not be doing that.
No.
Okay. So likewise, I'm going to say that I don't know that these numbers are actually complete because I don't see those considerations in there as well. Because that's actually savings.
Right, there could be a savings, yep. Yep.
Okay. And so then the second to last column then, we wouldn't have to hire any employees, we wouldn't have to purchase any equipment, we wouldn't have to put in this 171,000
Correct.
plus
Yep.
for this site at Pan American.
Correct.
And in anticipation, that's what these numbers are. So that pretty much is factoring in what
Right.
we can anticipate what the costs.
But remember about the contamination too, the 60,000, that could be more.
I'm sorry?
Remember, that could be more. The contamination on the bottom, that says 60,000,
Right.
that number could be higher.
It could be lower, it could be higher.
I don't think so. I'm sorry.
Well,
I don't
okay.
think it's gonna be lower. I wish it was, but no.
Well,
The reason-
we are spending a lot to educate the public. So with the
working
goal of getting people in that better practice of, what to put in, what not to put in, and so
We're
on.
working
So
on
I'd
it.
hope with
Yep,
the
we're
money and the
working on it.
resources we're putting into that we do accomplish improvements.
And Vice Mayor, if I may, that is fine with respect to the citizens of the
Right.
of the Northport. But when you're bringing it to the transfer station in Venice, the contamination is going to come in from whoever else brings their items to that transfer station. For example, well, they'll be checked, but still, you're going to you're still going to have that contamination factor with others, even though they're going to be checking them.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that's a moving figure. It could be up, it could
Exactly.
be down.
No,
it could be-
absolutely.
And the same thing.
Absolutely.
And the same thing is true with the share as well. I mean, this is a guess on what
Right.
that share is going to be. And for the commingles, it typically is lower than what your paper is, correct?
Oh, the commingle's higher for contamination and the
For
paper's lower.
Yeah, for contamination.
Contamination, the share.
The
In
share
other
is
words,
higher. Yes,
If they
ma'am.
charge 125.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever it is they're making, they may only credit us, because that's what it ends up being. We're not getting revenue from this. It's a credit towards that 125.
Yes, ma'am.
And that credit could be up or down.
Could be.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's a lot of unknowns in that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Seeing the time that it is, and we have a 1 o'clock meeting, I'll end my questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on. Do we have a motion? Anyone?
I-
ahead,
I'd
Commissioner
like to
McDowell.
make a motion, but I
So-
can't, you asked a question, so I'll
Yeah.
make a motion, but I'd like to see a little bit more of the accuracy in the figures and the data showing, the time, the overtime, the wear and tear on the vehicles.
Yep.
Making sure that this chart, based on our concerns that you've heard today, can be updated and bring it back. We don't, at this point in time, this is not a necessity.
Correct.
If you bring it back in the next couple weeks with the updated figures, that way then we can make a more educated decision. And then you can still put it out to an RFP right away. I think just updating these figures is something that I would like to see. I don't know about the other commissioners.
Okay.
So that way then we really can take a hard look at these numbers and be able to make an educated decision. And I think in the next 2 weeks, that is a doable thing, but that's just for me.
So what you're saying is you'd like to postpone the item, or how, not table it, but
Have them come back with
continue it
Yeah.
to the earliest convenience of the city manager.
If you want that in a
has
motion,
to be in a
I just
motion.
wanted to see if that was something that they could do in the next couple of weeks and bring it back. Basically, just double checking, this is not time sensitive at this point.
Well, no.
Not with the RFP,
If I may,
or
if I may,
rather the-
if I may. Typically, it takes 3 to 4 months to do an RFP. So factoring in that by February 1st, we would need to have another vendor in place. That's going to make it tight. We can do it. We can do it. We
So
will,
if you
we will
could-
do, we will prepare the analysis, but I would request to be placed on the 1st as a special solid waste district meeting of November, as opposed to the 2nd, to gain us a little bit of time, to be able to meet that expectation of having a vendor in place when our other contract is up.
What's that date?
The 13th, is that what you're,
Yes, ma'am.
that's 2 weeks away.
Yes, ma'am.
That's kind of where I
Yes,
was
ma'am.
leaning
Okay.
towards it too.
Yes, ma'am.
Just,
And it's a very tight schedule, and it's probably beyond the requirement to have everything in. But in order for us to stay on track with processing our RFP, that's what we would need to do.
yeah, okay. Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Please do.
I'll make a motion to continue the discussion on the recycling center and the covering for the Pan Am location to a future meeting with updated figures on the estimated annual cost, reflecting the concerns that we have expressed so far.
Second. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner McDowell, seconded by Commissioner Luke. Anything to that, Commissioner McDowell?
No, I think you've definitely heard our concerns and that the numbers will be reflected correctly.
Anything, Commissioner Luke? No. Okay, anyone else? Okay.
I just want to say that, hopefully that information is going to take into account just what we see going on with the recycling industry, because there is a lot going on, and some other alternatives that we can look at down the line. Because, the biggest concern for me is just going down a path that I think is going to be just an enormous, substantial impact on this community that I'm not sure is the right direction for us based on the market and seeing what the market is doing. There's all kinds of articles that, I'm sure you know yourself, and what other cities are doing right now. There's a lot of activity. So hopefully that will be something that comes back to us. It's rethinking recycling totally. And I'd hate to see us go down a path and
So do you
invest
want
in
to put
something.
an amendment in
So,
there?
do I need it? I don't know.
I would, if you want it in there, I
Yeah,
would amend it.
because mine was just to update the
Yep.
sheet.
So,
All
get in
right,
there.
so I'll move to amend, to have staff also look at and bring alternatives, consideration of the recycling market and just new alternatives.
Okay.
I'll second that, definitely. That's what I spoke to
So it's
earlier.
been moved by Commissioner Yates to bring back alternative methods, seconded by Commissioner Luke. Anything to that? I think you've said, did you push your button? No. Did you push your button? Yes. Okay. So let's go ahead and vote on the motion first,
Amendment?
or amendment, sorry. You were in my head. I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got to fix that between.
What is it?
Just vote, just vote.
I did.
The feedback when they do the voting.
That's
I
awesome.
get my beat down when it's doing that.
Yep. 5-0.
Okay, and that's unanimous, 5-0. Now we have to vote on the main motion,
And you'll hear it again.
so we get to hear it again.
Yes.
At least it's got like a rhythm. Okay, so that's unanimous, and so that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Let's move on. I thought we had, do we not have
We
C?
do have another item, but I
Yeah.
think that that is going to be tabled based on the previous one, so.
The utilization of Sourcewell.
Yes, ma'am. For the record, Juliana Belia, I would respectfully request continuance to a future solid waste district meeting on this item.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Yes, so the.
Okay, that's been moved by Commissioner Yates, seconded by Commissioner Luke. Anything to that? Seeing none, let's vote.
Get down with your bad self.
And that's unanimous. Thank you all. We have no public comment. Oh, Lord. Yeah. The last thing anyone wants to hear is my voice repeated. No administration or legal reports, seeing none, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.